Yes, and how have you been?
All good. It's a long time no like speak, but I do, like I said, loving the Widnes Rugby Union top that you've got on Twitter. It takes me back to memories when I used to coach many moons ago. My oldest boys team.
How is it? We were just talking off mate, weren't we, about how we know common people and stuff like that. It's a small world, the rugby world, mate, isn't it? And
It is very much so. Even sort of whether it be locally or internationally, to be fair, I'm quite lucky in that respect that sort of we don't have to. You don't see somebody for I don't know maybe 10, 20 years, and all of a sudden you bump into somebody, and then it's as if you would never. You go back 20 years, and it's you like you've never been away to for the period that you've not seen each other doesn't exist. Now, the rugby family is pretty special. I suppose the third of us are lucky enough that we're part of that.
oh, definitely, mate. So before we get stuck into your rugby story, mate, where was home for you as a kid, and who lived at home with you?
So I'm a St Helens boy, born and bred in St Helens with very much strong Welsh ancestry. Mum, dad, and baby sister were at home. Grew up as obviously I went to St Cuthbert's High School, which is always probably the best people from a rugby family background. Myself and Gary Conley were at high school together. So we grew up playing both sports, which was in those days was always rugby and football. I didn't pick up a rugby ball at the age of 12. Gary Conley was the same as well. Both of us were believing that. We're footballers before that. We played representative football together in different teams. I play left back or centre half, and Gary Conley was a box to box midfield, central midfield player. So that's how we played against. We didn't play in the same club sides together, but obviously we played representing St Helens in a variety of different competitions.
So how does the rep stuff work in kids football, mate? 'Cause I wouldn't have a clue, mate. So do you go and do you do trials, and is it through school or through your club?
No, in them days it was obviously it could be either to be honest, but in them days he literally was he played in the league, so the St Helens. We were representing the St Helens League at that time, and that was teams from obviously everybody in St Helens. Raynhill was obviously included in that, and then we played obviously different parts of Merseyside, and obviously when it came to Merseyside Championships and so forth. So that literally is all the different leagues within Merseyside would play each other in sort of like a Merseyside Champions. I do remember the highlight for me for that was my under 14s that we played out. We played the Merseyside final against. I think it was against Knowsley. It was to be honest. A lot of kids who played for Western Juniors, which was Stephen Gerrard's old club, played in that league, and I actually scored the winning goal, believe it or not, for what's name in that final when we beat Knowsley 2-0 in that final. I only played football until the age of 15. Yeah, I was in and out, and I was at Man City for a bit as well, but failed football. It was never for me. I was a big, strong, physical left back, front centre half. He asked me to be technical. If he wanted me to be Diego Maradona playing football, I think that was far from not exactly what I was built to do. And then I was lucky enough at the time that myself and Gary Gascon, or Gary Collins, you guys know him as, we picked up a rugby ball at high school, and we went to the same high school as Andy Ayres, who was also at Widnes. Richie Ayres was also at the same high school as well. He'd left when I went through because he's 5 years older than me. Even though Richie would probably tell you he's 5 years younger than me. Yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those things. So Andy Ayres always tells me when I see Andy, I still speak to Andy quite frequently, that he wants them to be fair, that he was 2 years above me at school, but he was always 2 years below me at school. Yeah, he gets away with it because he's still not got a grey hair in his head. And look at the state of my head. So it's just one of those things where I was quite lucky, but I went to a really sporting school in St Helens, and we just progressed from that. We just played representative rugby up until the schoolboy rugby up until the age of 15, and then I was quite fortunate at the age of 16 that I selected for England schoolboys.
Right. So how did you find school, mate? Before we kick on with the rugby, was school something you enjoyed, and how was high school for you?
Yeah, high school for me was good. Obviously, I came out with in those days, if you came up before GCSEs or GCEs as it's known in them days, I don't know what they call it nowadays, to be quite, even though I've got 3 kids, they've all left school now. But it literally is, for me, it was just, you can't, I mean, I just sort of, when I left school, I went into, I used to work for St Helens Authority. I used to work, believe it or not, in the salaries and wages departments. I used to pay all the accountants and all the staff. Before I went, obviously, we're talking about rugby in a minute. I was quite, to get that sort of job, you had to have some sort of decent education. And I enjoyed it. Maths was my main thing, to be fair. Still is now. Probably people say because I'm tight that I just sit here counting money, but I don't. Trust me, I don't, because the wife's very good at spending it.
Right. So, was you playing ball sports, or was you playing football and rugby up until a certain age, mate?
Yeah, up until the sort of under 15s. I played football. It was all football. I played, sorry, let me slightly track back. I played rugby at school. I played representative rugby all the way through school, county level, that is. And then I played county level up until age 15. When I was under 15s, I'd play rugby in the morning and football in the afternoon on a Sunday. So my mum and dad would have to carry me and drive me around here, there, and everywhere. Particularly in them days, I was playing for Blackbrook, obviously rugby for Blackbrook. That's my amateur club in the morning, so I could be anywhere in Lancashire, and then hurry back and get changed on the way back from the rugby match. And stick on my footy kits on and then my footy boots to go with it as well, because I had to have separate boots for the 2 different sports. In them days, we used to play rugby. We used to wear the fabulous Wolves boots. Remember Wolves boots? Does anybody remember the Wolves boots?
And the ankle ones.
No, not the boot ones. But it was like a football shaped one, but they were like a handmade boot, which was used to buy them. There's a special sports store in St Helens that used to sell them all. I think the manufacturers in those days, Andy Gregg used to wear that particular time. It was like a special boot that it like a sole, but it had a leather piece in it, so it had really, really flexible sole. So it was brilliant. Obviously, with the longer stuff, so it was brilliant for playing rugby. For anybody in my generation, if you mention the word Wolves boots, you just see a big smile because they know exactly what they're talking about. We all wore them. And then it was kangaroo leather because they were handmade. They were fantastic bit of kit. So them in the morning, and a pair of Adidas or Puma King in the afternoon. So that's them that spraying footy in the afternoon. So that was me up until the age of 15. I had to make a choice. I was advised to make a choice because at that particular time there was a number of rugby clubs that were professional clubs were already showing interest. Somebody who was one of the main scouts for Widnes at that particular time advised me that I needed to give the football up and concentrate on the rugby, because if I did that, I'd probably sign my first pro contract within 12 months. And believe me, taking that advice, my family took that advice, or I should say my dad took that advice pretty seriously. Again, because you're guided by your parents at that age. I was quite lucky in that respect. And yeah, within 12 months I'd signed my first contract, even though at the time you had to turn 17 to sign your first pro contract. But Widnes got. I was still at high school, but not just started to prepare for me GCSEs. I hadn't been picked for England at the time. It was around about January, February time when Widnes came round to my house with a contract. After meeting myself and David Myers, who was also playing, who's a Widnes lad, who's played the majority of his kid at, so he's not the majority of his rugby at Widnes Tigers, but that year came to play at Blackbrook, because myself, Gary, him came out the same team. And he what's name to be first. So he went in first. I think it was one Tuesday night to train. I think David went in at 6 o'clock. And then I went in at 7 o'clock. Everything was agreed, and they came round to our houses, and then contracts were signed and hid away in Big Jim's safe.
So going back to county rugby, at school, Jace, do you remember the selection process, mate?
Yeah, so at school, you would go for like anything. Kids from all over the northwest of England would come to selection of trials, and you would go through one particular trial. If you got through that, then you'd be invited back to another, and then if you got through 2 initial trials, then you'd be invited back to a final trial, where the county squad was selected on that basis. It was pretty much. I mean, I think, certainly I know when I was under 16s, I'd actually broke my arm in the summer before the under 16s trial. So when my arm was in a plaster, I actually I broke my wrist. So I actually my dad cut the plaster off my arm so I could do the final trial. and we just strapped it up, to be quite honest, and I managed to get through it. It was only afterwards later, because not only in the county trials, but obviously England's selectors were at those trials as well, that when years by years, when you go up, and because we're quite lucky enough to meet people years after the event, he said you were already in the England squad after the final county trial. So the fact that I actually cut the actual the plaster off my arm, if I hadn't done that, I would never have got picked for England.
But yeah, and it's the hindsight, mate, and it's just that fine margin.
And sport is fine margin, no matter what level it is. Sport is very much fine margin, and sort of, but it's also it's the knock-on effect that I hadn't have done that and took that risk, I wasn't in any pain by any stretch. So it's not before anybody that with parents, no parental guidance. So we knew it was virtually healed. It's the fact that there was no risk taken, so there was no pain. So there's no child cruelty or anything like that. Don't worry about anything like that. Before anybody wants to point that finger at my parents, but it literally was on that principle. It was just a case of if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't got picked for England, I probably wouldn't have signed my first contract with Widnes. And that was so that one event, the chain of events on that basis, when you look back in hindsight, was pretty, certainly for my life, because obviously we'll talk about what happened later. But in my life, without that one bit, nothing else in my life probably would have happened.
Yeah, well, it's pretty big, really, isn't it, when you put it like that?
Yeah.
Right, and so when you go on this tour, mate, how is it for you, and logistically, how does it work? And do you find out by letter, the old school way?
No,
Online.
No, the school in English school, it used to be down by the school would be informed that basically you've been selected for England. Literally, so the school was notified, and then obviously through the PE department in that respect. That's how it was done. Certainly in my day, when I went on, we'll talk about it later on, when I played under 19s, Great Britain for Barla, for example, we used to get, it was the old school, you used to get a letter through the pub of the squad, name selected, and to congratulating. So for the likes of certainly some of the Widnes kids, that Darren O'Brien, Peter Albertson, to be fair, the two, Keith Horrobin is another one, to be fair, another one of the Widnes kids from my era, he got picked in the 19 squads. We all got that, so because Peter still, because we have a WhatsApp group for that under 19s team. So literally is, and it's the 31st anniversary of that tour, which we were talking obviously I've heard about it this year. So it's been interesting because Peter posts pictures of obviously from that. We've all got like nicely coloured hair and skinny and fit and everything else that goes with 18 and 19-year-old boys at the time, to be fair. But the old-fashioned letters, I don't even know. I mean, my mum still has boxes of stuff in our loft at home, to be quite honest. I don't even see it, to be quite honest, but literally, I don't know if I've still got the letters. I tended to try to keep them as a kid. You try to keep as many things as you possibly can, but I haven't seen them, only for Peter posting it on our WhatsApp group.
Right, no, it's class that you all stay in touch as well, like we said, like even after all this time. And
so, I mean, if you look at the people that went on that, just slightly on that tour, so myself, Chris Wood, Gary Chambers, who's the director of rugby at Warrington Wolves. And if any Widnes fans listen to this, they'll probably curse and swear when I mention the name Warrington Wolves. Then you've got Alan Hunt, Gary Connolly. Then you've got Tommy Martin was on that tour as well. Paul Fletcher, who's the big, robust, no-nonsense second row that played for Hull KR. I think he spent his whole career there. He's in their Hall of Fame. Fletcher's a real character. And then you've got Sean Brown, he played scrum half for Salford. You've got Neil Flanagan, he played scrum half for Oldham, was also on that tour as well. So it's quite, when Paul Derbyshire, God rest his soul, is no longer with us. He's obviously, he was at Warrington Wolves, and then the likes of Carl Marriott, who played a lot of the time before he's no longer with us as well, God rest his soul. He was at Rochdale, so there's a lot of that. And then you got the Cumbrian boys who basically all played between Workington and Whitehaven, to be fair. So you've got all those boys as well. Up there as well. So no, our team, I mean, Darren O'Brien and Peter Albertson played for Saints, so not then to refer the two Widnes kids. So our squad was pretty special. A lot of the boys who went on that squad had long, distinguished careers. But the meetups are quite unique because we look at the pictures of when we were sort of 18, 19 on that, and we still talk about that talk. It's like I mean, obviously, I'm not going to tell you certain things, but when you're 18-year-old boy and
No.
you're away in Australia, nobody
Yeah.
will keep that there. You can imagine. And all the boys are single as well, to be fair as well. And
Yeah.
you've got the bright lights of Sydney, to be fair, and you're having a look round. You have a good look round King's Cross in Sydney, to be fair. I'll leave it at that. And then you
Yeah.
can imagine. So you 18-year-old boys will be 18-year-old boys.
Yeah. So for viewers and listeners that might not know, King's Cross is like Blackpool on speed.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So like leave that to a minute, mate. So do you know when you go back to your club then, Jason, you're hitting these markers even like I know you said you picked up a rugby ball quite in your mid-teens. Does it highlight you as a player that people want to target?
In what respect do you mean by that?
As in, so say a lad's not hitting them markers, but can handle himself a little bit. Did you find yourself on the back end of a bit of treatment than that because you're a rep player?
Yeah, you always will do. To be fair, I played in the schoolboys, and once I finished high school, for example, I went and played in Australia. So I went and played um, senior rugby in Australia. So I signed my contract. So we're tied my contract with Widnes. So what Widnes agreed to do in my off season was junior rugby and big boys and senior rugby as regards men rugby very, very different. So I went and played up in North Queensland in Townsville, so we played in the North Queensland competition as a 16-year-old playing with men, but also playing junior rugby as well. Real eye opener. It was a real, real
How
because
was
obviously
that? Yeah, yeah.
being the only English, classing that because I class myself as Welsh, but the only British man in playing in the competition. You know what Aussies and Poms are like, to be fair, when he's watched it. So I was walking around with a tag to my head anywhere, to be fair. So I got some treatments. You just had to get used to the fact that that's part and parcel of what that treatment is. For me, it was character building because it literally is on that respect. It's just sink or swim time. You rather you accept it and go through the barrier. And it steadied me. It probably, when I came back to Widnes and the ups and downs I had when I was at Widnes, it literally steadied me in good stead because it just made me more determined than ever to actually just to continue that. Even though I had, so it was the perfect grounding for me. As well as to be fair, I have to say this: when I was playing reserve team rugby at Widnes, it literally was for me. I had a brilliant 18 coach by the name of Colin Tyra. He was one of them. He knew there was so many talented kids, but he just wouldn't throw them in. And then he'd throw them in, bring them out, throw them in, dip the toe, throw them out. So they'd gain that experience when they were physically and mentally ready to sort of say, right, off you go. And I had that experience both in Australia as a 16-year-old, because obviously I was coached over there by an Australian great, which was a gentleman by the name of Rod Redder. His nickname was Rocket Redder. Then he was a second row. I was a loose forward in them days. So I played second row, stroke loose forward. So I had the perfect coach who looked after me, who made me play. I'd play A-grade rugby with the men some days. And then this week now, I'll give you a break, go and play in the under-19s, even as a 16-year-old. But the level of the under-19s over there was so high because there were so many talented kids that were doing it. In fact, I played with, I believe it not, because I know Gordon Tallis. Everybody knows Gordon Tallis, who obviously played second row for Australia. His older brother, I actually played in the same junior team as his older brother, under 19s. Gordon was a little snotty-nosed kid at the time, to be fair, that was just like cheeky little sod that was just like, he knew everything, and everybody just used to walk around just throwing a ball in his hands. He had brilliant hand skills as a kid. I thought, this kid's going to be a halfback, not being second row, and just like the enforcer for Australia. But it was, and I went to play against them in the World Cup semi-final back in 2000. It was quite ironic. The players were laughing about it on the field because obviously we both played for the same unit. We both came through the same junior club in Australia, so it was one of those things we were laughing and giggling about at the time. Afterwards, not during the game, by the way.
Yeah.
World Cup semi-final at the time. So literally, it's just no, it's what gives you brings you to the fair. You're slightly backtracking, but when you speak to them, we talk even at kids, and we still talk about the under-19s boys move up as that side of it. And even now, when you look back, to be fair, you still have conversations by social media is brilliant nowadays, and even podcasting and like that. To be fair, you still be able to sort of communicate and catch up. To be fair, it's fantastic. It's as if you've never been away for 20, 30 years, depending on the last time you've seen each other.
That's it, mate. And do you think more like kids should do that avenue? Go and test themselves a little bit and stuff.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of the kids nowadays. I think because there's limited opportunities in the UK, you tend to see a lot of kids, and I certainly see a lot of I think Tommy Martin's boys over in playing junior rugby or country rugby, as it's known of, over there in Australia.
Yeah.
So Tommy was his boy was at St Helens. Has gone to that. There's more and more kids. I think Bobby Gilden. Well, I think Bobby Gilden's oldest boy's playing.
A couple of them did, yeah.
I played junior rugby over in Australia as well. So yeah, it's just it's about life skills and opportunities, and depending which avenue you go down. I did it at the age of 16 as a naive 16-year-old. Went over as a kid, came back as a man. I always said that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
So I would advise any junior that would have got that opportunity to grab it with both hands and take it. And then the other side of things, I could play reserve team football. And you don't even see what's Super League now. There's the first team squad, and that's it. Does anybody come through the junior league? It's very, very rare that anybody comes through the system. There's one kid who lives around the kid who's a Widnes kid called Harry Roberts. He went to school with my youngest, who's 17, who's in the academy. I know there's big things expected of him, but I would suspect so, to be fair, because that kid's pretty special. Widnes kid playing for Widnes. When you've got Widnes down the road looking for players, it doesn't sit right, does it? To be quite honest.
No, it's mad, mate. It's crazy. And imagine how many kids slip the net, Jace, because of that.
Yeah. Lewis Dodd's another one, plays scrum half at St Helens.
Yeah.
It's the name, but another one, to be quite honest. It's quite funny when you know you're getting old, when you watch Thingy Wellsby that plays fullback for St Helens, and I played junior rugby with his dad, Mark. So you know you're getting old.
So what type of loose forward was you, mate? Was you the hybrid, like not just a middle, but could play a little bit? What was your job role at 13?
I was a wide running, attacking loose forward, to be fair. Don't get me wrong, I could hold my own. It's probably why the easy when later in my career I moved out into the centres and then obviously on the wing as well, to be fair as well, because literally is my people, the guys that do what they do down the middle. I did that side of it as well when needed to, when it was getting tough, but I was scrum in the old days, scrum after stand off, give it the loose forward, and then feed him through, and then I was a hole runner. I always have been a hole runner. So I literally and the best person I ever played was a guy called Tony Myler. And so he played with Tony, and Tony used to step up. He said, Tony, where do you want to go? I hit a hole and I'll find you. Yes, and Harris was the same as well. And that's the type of loose forward I was. I was I'd hit a hole, create space, so I'd rather finish myself off or put somebody else in. And that literally is what my great strength was. Later on in my career, I was the other one, where I could still hit a hole, but I'd always be on the end of stuff as well.
Right, mate. So when you come back to Widnes, what's the chat? So are you told what your role's going to be, because you have come back a man now?
Yeah, no, my role is like anything, to be fair. It's still part of my development. It's like anything. You just get assessed to see where you are as an individual, what your skill set is, where you are mentality was as well. I played one game in the reserves away at Salford back in 1989, straight in the first team squad. Being on the tour, being obviously the 2 years previously, I'd had 87 and 88. I'd been in the off season playing junior rugby and senior rugby in Australia. 89, I went on the tour. So it was all that. Them 2 years was all prep for the 89 tour of Australia. When we played against Australia, and the likes of Brad Fittler and Jason Taylor, to be fair, with the two halfbacks, we named up two. And then obviously everybody's heard of Freddie Fittler. Freddie, the kid, was unbelievable because he played against us, and then a year later with the Kangaroo. So that showed you how good he was. As a junior. And then sort of we were sort of even in that team, myself, Gary Conley, and Alan Hunt. We all went on to obviously to represent Great Britain. Obviously, it went on the Great Britain tours. Out of that squad, so it's just one of those things where it was all prep for when I got to Widnes, and I did my one game at Widnes. Don't get me wrong, you know, I think I made the debut. The first team debut for Widnes was, I think it was the week after they won the World Club Championship against the Canberra Raiders. And I played, and I got the call to play, and that Dougie Dupree made my shit. I got man of the match that day, to be fair. We lost, believe it or not, which was a big shock at the time. It was good. So it was like that was my debut. The week after we beat Canberra Raiders in World Championships, local
So how
championship.
was it being around Widnes at that time, mate? Because obviously that's still a big deal to us, isn't it? The beating
Yeah,
Canberra and that.
I know absolutely. When you walk in the dressing room, you've got Sorensen, you've got McKenzie, you've got Grimmer, you've got Moriarty, you've got Richie Ears, you've got Emosi Coloto. These are the people I was competing against, by the way, to get in the team. And then you've got
Yeah,
Paul Hugh, and then you get likes of Paul Hugh, Les Holiday, Derek Pike. There has to be, obviously, you talk about a lot of guys everyone's an international, everyone's a senior pro. And then coming through the system at that particular time, you've got myself, you've got Dave Smith, you've got Steve McCurry, all back rowers, all vying for those positions as well as kids coming through the system. It literally was the actual club was in such a strong position, health-wise, player-wise. I think when even now with the new technology, you watch some of YouTube and some of the old games from that era, and some of the rugby that team played. And in the backs, you've got Tony Mile, you've got Dave Hume, you've got Jonathan Davis, you've got John Devereux, you've got Darren Wright, you've got Andy Currier, you've got Rick Thackeray from what's name when he was Rick, who was a real character to be fair, and then you've got Alan Tate, and you hear Jonathan Davis, you go on and on and on about the names, the depth in that squad. Martin Afire, I didn't even mention him to be fair. I saw Martin a few weeks back at the Lions Den, and you got Martin thrown in that as well. And as a kid growing up, and the ability that those kids have, and you've got the professors and the likes of Paul and David Hume and Tony Marler, who was setting standards on a daily basis. It was all about, it's like culture and environments, the key word, whether it be in business or whether it be in sports, all about culture and environments. Culture was so good. Don't get me wrong, we worked really, really hard, but we also played hard as well, as you well through in that time as well. So it was just one of those things where literally sprint training with Jonathan Davis, Martin Afire, Alan Tate, the name but two. Like, yeah, keep up with them boys to be fair, best if you can to be fair. You might have been in second game, but still keep up with them sort of scenario. And it was just the culture around the place was just Dougie. Dougie, that was one thing with Dougie was. He might not have been the best coach, and he was definitely not the best coach, but he could put a team together that would express themselves and go, no, don't get me out of basic structure, but when you've got the likes of Dave and Paul Hume and as the people from Widnes call him King Curtin, so people like that, to be fair honest, who set that sort of level and standard, you know full well that standard had to be maintained and that to be adhered to. And we were quite lucky that our schooling as a 16-year-old for Lexus, you know, even Carl Hammond was as a kid coming through at the time, and people like that with it. It's just with the Paul Aitchen, who's my best man at my wedding, to the fair, Pat still a really good close friend of mine. It literally is, to be fair, that sort of level and standard of player that was coming through, was there but was coming through. We had the right sort of culture and standards that we had to adhere to and were set for us. So it was brilliant. It was fantastic. Best schooling ever. About second to none. Because of the level.
Golden time, Jace, wasn't it?
When you look back at, I left because, we'll go into that in a second why I left Widnes, because I'm sure that's one of your questions, but literally it's moving, but that particular time, when the club hit financial trouble and players had to disappear in the league because of it was so sad. Because the team was built, both the current team and then that A team I played in, that 11 internationals, that full internationals that graduated, that 11 full internationals. So the next team that was already there, but it disappeared because of financial issues. And that's the
I remember, like, Barry Dowd said the same. He said, like, he just sat in a changing room full of internationals. He said, and sometimes you probably think you shouldn't be there. And he said the same about Doug as well, that his man management was spot on, but he wasn't the best coach.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
No,
Isn't that how someone can do that, though, Jason? It
is, and something like Dowd is a great example to me for. He never got the recognition that he deserved. Okay, now what a player he was, by the way.
Yeah.
I think I'll tell this story to you because literally he's like one of the, he was a big fan of, remember Phil Bennett, who played standoff for Wales in the 70s? Phil Bennett, he'd step off his left foot. Right. You remember Phil Bennett? So Phil Bennett was a Welsh standoff who played Rugby Union for Wales in the great 70s Welsh team. An unbelievable left foot step. When Barry played that World Cup final, you see when he breaks through and he steps off his left foot. He watched him and puts back. I forget. I think it's down right at the time. He puts in the time. When he steps off his left foot, he goes Bennett, because that's what he used to mod himself off Phil Bennett. So he's playing in the World Cup final. He's just Bennett, and then obviously training every time he steps his foot, he goes Bennett. Bloke, incredibly intelligent man. He's a really successful business career. Not a lot of time for Dowdy, to be fair, but as a footballer, he's been a brilliant guy. He's an unbelievable rugby player.
Yeah. No, he was, mate. It was great to chat to. So you touched on it there about leaving Widnes. So talk us through the circumstances and where you went to.
So my last year, I think Frank Marley had been appointed as, I think Dougie had left. Frank Marley had been appointed as coach. I'd actually played, believe it or not, I'd won the year. I think I scored something like, I think it was 30 or 40 tries or something stupid like that in the A team. I broke through towards the end of the season into as a first team, and I actually played, believe it or not, because I couldn't believe it at the time. Sort of, I think Frank put me on the wing. I mean, back row, second row, forward, playing on the wing. I remember the first game I played on the wing. I think it was against Bradford. I remember this bit because I was marking Henderson Gill, and so I'm marking Henderson Gill. I've never played on the wing before in my life. It was like completely like fish out of the water. And I was opposite me, Henderson Gill. He remembered from the 88 tour when he runs around the fullback and does the boogie and watched them at Sydney Cricket ground to the ground. And I'm marking Henderson Gill, the Wigan legend. So it was, again, I think we won that day anyway, so it wasn't a problem. It's like anything when you're unsure about it, like you come on, you do the basics. Make sure you make all your tackles, don't drop any balls, chase all kicks. Just keep it nice and tidy and like essentially that, so you don't make any sort of major mistakes. So it was one of those days. But I got pulled in towards the end of the season and told by Frank that they were going to let me go because he didn't think I'd make it as a professional rugby player on a consistent basis, even though I tore it up at the start. And then so they sold me to myself and Stephen Wayne got swapped. Frank had stepped down. Phil Ladd had come in as coach. Phil Ladd had been advised by other people within the club to sell me and Stephen Wynn. So I left. So being Phil at that particular time, he adhered to that advice. And then within the space of, I think it was roughly about May time, by October, I'd been capped by England for the full international.
When you're not going to make it, innit?
I'm really not going to make it. So my pre-season that year was exceptional. I made a lot of sacrifices. I was actually working at the time for St Helens Council, so I gave up my job, went full time in the rugby. It took a big gamble, and then it paid off for me because within the time I'd left Widnes, I didn't matter to Widnes, to be fair, because they went and played in the Challenge Cup final that year against Wigan and lost. I do remember walking down Wembley Way with my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife. We walked down Wembley. I was on a bus with a load of Widnes supporters, and I did get quite a lot of sticky walking down Wembley Way, as you can imagine that day, which I did laugh and giggle about at the time. But the fact that we ain't missing you, Critchley. Yeah, well, they were at Wembley. I said, no, you're not missing me. So I'll come back and haunt you. And I did.
Yeah.
Of all the clubs I played against, I think I scored 22 tries against Widnes of all the clubs that went once I left. I think when I was at Keithley, I think I scored 6 in one game.
I was going to touch on it, mate. Yeah. So so regardless of who you were playing for, was due to that comment, mate, was that always a game you targeted?
For me, very, very much so. Even though I'm a St Helens kid, Widnes was my team. I supported my team. I used to live in St Helens, close to Widnes than what it was to St Helens. So it was my dad would always take me to go and watch GPL or Mick Adams. So they were all my heroes as a kid, and that's who I would watch. So Widnes was when I had the choice of 6 clubs and Widnes came knocking as a kid, it was a no-brainer for me because that's the club I always wanted to play for. But it literally, so for me to be then obviously 5 years into my contract, it literally to be told that I wasn't good enough to be a professional rugby was knowing full well was just the motivation that I needed, to be quite honest, because like I said, within a few months of leaving. sometimes it's like I always said to kids, and like sometimes you've got to take a step backwards to take 2 steps forward. It was a prime example for me that, to be honest, because then I went on to play over 100 games for Salford. I scored 1 in every 2 in a team that was in the bottom half of the Division 1 at the time. So it worked its way, and then I got a contract to go and play for Western Reds in the NRL.
Right. So how was Salford, mate? So was it a good enough platform for you to enjoy yourself? Hence why England selection come along.
Yeah, I was quite lucky. The England selection, it was never something that sort of it happens. I mean, the fact that I've got 1 England cap and I've got my shirt on the wall, and then I've got 11 caps for Wales as well. I mean, in those particular times, people say, "Well, how can you play for England and how can you play for Wales?" Well, at that particular time, the rule stated I had to be. It was the place of birth, and then in 12 months after that, they said the rule changed where it became into family heritage. So I immediately changed. Once that happened, I immediately changed my league from England to Wales straight away. And then I was involved in squads and so forth as well. Moving forward, when Wales had games. But like I said, Wales in those days was Jonathan Davis and the rest of the team, John Devereux. David Young, obviously, was one of my teammates at Salford, to be fair, as well. Obviously, went to catch. I missed the '95 World Cup because I had eye socket and cheekbone reconstruction, so I was injured. So that was obviously that was a painful time to feel because it was something I was really looking forward to at that particular time. So, but when you face, well, I look like even more so, I look like Quasimodo in them days to be fair than I do now. And it literally is, to be quite honest, it's just one of those things you've just got to accept it. My time.
And you touched on before about, sorry to interrupt, mate. You touched on before how proud you was, and you class yourself as Welsh. So if that rule was always heritage, you would never have played for England, would you?
No, absolutely no chance. I mean, it's a bone of discussion. My kids accept. My wife will never accept that. So she doesn't accept the Welsh side of who I am. She still says I'm English. So, but it's like anything. I think she does it to try and wind me up. To be quite honest, my kids accept it. So for example, if there's a Rugby Union game on, to be fair, like there is at the weekend, to be fair, we will sit and watch and support Wales. We will support England, and my kids will do exactly the same. They'll support Wales as well, knowing full well that which might sound a little bit strange, because they are English. I make no bones, they are English. But when it comes to rugby, it's anybody but England.
Right. So, what happened? So you were top try scorer for Salford at one point as well, mate, weren't you? Like you said, you were like 1 in every 2. Did it work out?
Yeah, I think 1 year I think it was 3rd or 4th in the coach. I think 3 years I was at Salford. I think it was player of the year twice, and I was top try scorer in one of the other years, to be quite honest as well. So my 3 years at Salford was fantastic. I mean, I was coached by Kevin Tamati, who took me to Salford, and then Jimmy Jack or Gary Jack, who I still speak to on social media. I still exchange messages. Like Jimmy was my coach, great bloke, tighter than Cramp. Oh mate, you never get him anywhere near a bar. To be fair, he's the most tightest man I've ever known in my life. To be fair, he had more money than any of us. To be fair, his idea of buying around the drinks was basically 35 halves of lager. That's basically what his idea was. Very tighter than Cramp. And he literally is, to be Jimmy, great bloke. So Jimmy was the coach. I had a really, really strong relationship with Jimmy. And then Jimmy got the sack and they appointed Andy Gregory, and it was time for me to leave. And that's why I left Salford.
Yeah. So you mentioned then you got player of the year twice as well.
I think so. Yeah, out there. Yeah. So I had player of the year. So I played the year in the 18 at Widnes. Played the year a couple of years at Salford. So I mean, and then I must have been doing something right, because obviously scouts came over from the NRL. In that day, the Super League war was about to break out. I'd already agreed to go to the Western Reds based over in Perth. So I'd agreed. So I had with a further 12-month contract. And just before I married my wife, who's my wife Donna, who's from Widnes. she'll never leave Widnes. So literally, I've only got out of Widnes twice. I'll tell you that. One was to go to Australia to play in the NRL.
Yeah.
And it literally is for me. It literally is for me. Sort of, that's what we were going to do. But my oldest boy, who's 29, we were talking about who's my oldest boy, Scott, was 6 months old at the time. We just got married before he came out to Australia. Obviously moved out, so we brought the wedding forward, knowing full well we agreed to go obviously to go and play to move to Australia. But my wife got homesick very, very quickly over there, so I had to sort of scrap the last 12 months of my NRL contract because obviously, even 24/25, family comes first, irrespective of what my opinion. I wasn't going to stay out there just for the kids. My wife and my oldest boy, Scott, would be back in the UK because she's desperate to come home. It's not the days when we have now where you have Facebook and there was none of that.
No, that's it, mate. Yeah.
You had none of that, to be fair, in them days. It just was the telephone, that's it. There's no face-to-face video calls or nothing like that. So I decided to come back. So I assessed which was the best offer for me. And people said to me when I came back, why did you come back and drop down a division? I was sold so much, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made career-wise. I was so because Phil Larder was the coach, and Phil said he made the biggest decision, one of the biggest decisions, worst decisions he ever made was selling me. So he cost him £110,000 to buy me back. I literally on that. I went to Keighley Cougars when I could have signed for a number of other clubs within Super League at that time, because Super League had just started. One of the best decisions I ever made. Not because the quality of rugby was the same as what we were getting in Super League at that particular time. But I was playing for I was part of Cougar Mania, which at that time was literally, it was just such a special time. My old mate Andy Ayres was there as well. So, and I played with Darryl Powell, Nick Pinknett was part of the back line I was in. Andre Stupert played fullback for Wigan, was part of that as well, to be honest as well. So we had Dallas Flavey played in the second row, Grant Doe, there was loads of Jason Ramshaw, Marty Wood, who played for England as well, playing this forward. So we had loads of top class players playing in that side. So that's why I went. It's just unfortunate the 2 seasons that I was there, they hit financial trouble again. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was on quite a lot of money in those days, so I was getting pretty decent wages, but also as well, they literally we was all geared to getting promotion, and that 2 seasons we had a really bad stretch of injuries. So Nick Pinkney was like, I played in the Premiership final with like a reserve team basically, and we still only just got beaten in a Premiership final at Old Trafford. And that's the reason. And the financial, I got picked for the Lions. I played for Wales in the European Championship, then got picked for the Lions tour to Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and New Zealand back in '96. So people said to me, "Why did you do it?" Well, it didn't stop me playing representative honours and at the highest level, playing in that division. I think I was third top highest scorer in the country. I scored 35 and 25 games that year for Keighley, to be fair. So it was what it was, to be quite honest. So I was quite lucky in that respect. And then I came back just before I left. I came back to the UK with a smashed up knee from the tour. I had an operation on my knee, and then all hell broke loose at Keighley because financially they were virtually bankrupt. So I got sold to Castleford Tigers.
Right, mate. So the NRL club that you went to, mate, what was that chat like when you said I need to go home? How accommodating were they, all unaccommodating?
Anything like that, to be fair, it was a pretty easy conversation. To be fair to Pete Mulholland, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. I think he died of cancer a couple of years back now, to further coach. Great bloke. So Skull was his nickname. So Skull was an incredibly, really, really good bloke. Fully understand, because he knew I was getting. We were in constant contact with each other before I actually got out there. He knew, obviously, so there was myself, Craig Guinness, Barry John Mather, Brendan Tutor. So the guys who played in Division 1, who would watch them, we were all going over anyway, to be fair. Dio Powell, who was at Wakefield as well, was with us as well. So there was 5 of us that were over coming over from the UK. And it was really, really cool. He knew full well that I was still 24/25, still young. Like I said, a 6-month-old baby with Scott, if my oldest 29 now. and then obviously my wife Donna as well. And it was one of those things where we just made a decision, which was he knew I was never going to stay over there without my family. And my family had already gone back because she needed it because she was homesick, and it was a sensible decision. It's like anything, as a human, you forget the contractual side of things, the human element does come into it. And I was lucky enough that I was, yeah, exactly right. And I was lucky enough that I had a coach who was incredibly sympathetic to those circumstances and was quite. He was disappointed that I went back. Obviously, we spent a lot of time recruiting, scouting, everything that goes with it as well. And when you go overseas, I think house, car, everything that goes with it as well. To be fair, so it's not exactly something that you think likely. There's a lot of planning that goes on in the background, to be fair, but it was the right for me. It was the right thing to do, and we proved right then. And just God rest his soul, he's no longer with us. But there's a lot of people who think that had him. And MG Mark Guy was our biggest sign. MG played in the second row for us. I would class Mark as a little bit old school when he played. He was the one that had the fight with Wally Lewis in the State of Origin back a couple of years earlier, to be fair. I think it's one of the most famous parts. The referees separated the program as they were walking off the pitch at half time and just wanted to kill each other.
So do you know when you move, mate, and there's a transfer fee involved, which tended to happen with you, Jason, is that extra pressure, mate, or do you just go and play your rugby because they've bought you for a reason type thing?
Mate, yeah, the first thing everybody has said to me when it comes to transfers is, the rugby players get a cut of the transfer fee, and the first question is no. So there's no pressure. So for me, there was no pressure on me. He could have spent 400 pounds. I really didn't care, to be honest, because let's see, between the two clubs, there's no. For me, I just considered that was a transaction between the two clubs. I'm bought there for a certain reason, to play a certain way and just get on with the job. And that's all I ever did, was just, no matter what it was, to be fair, was to just to get on with the job. My job was to play at my optimum ability, and obviously, because then I was playing in the outside back, just to score tries, and that's what the club wanted me to do.
How was Cass, mate?
Cass was brilliant. I mean, I was quite lucky. I had a centre partnership with a guy called Adrian Bowles, who obviously went on to win Man of Steel a few years later when he switched positions from. So when I joined Casper, they'd lost, I think it was the first 12 games, and they were bottom of the league. And then we managed in my first season to, I think we finished 8th. And then it was the year Bradford won the league, and then we played in the Premiership. So we finished 8th in Bradford top. We went to Bradford, beat Bradford at Bradford, and then we went to St Helens in the semi-finals, and just narrowly lost the Saints in the semi-finals. So for us, and that year we played in the World Cup Championship, which I have to say was the best holiday I've ever experienced in my life, to be fair. But if you want to know about that, we were in Australia for 16 days. I think we were sober for 4. It's the best lads holiday I ever had in my life. Well, listen, we couldn't win, because the reason why what people say, well, that's not very little bit unprofessional, I suppose, yeah, it is. But when you're in a cooker box like we were in so much pressure. We had to be fighting to stay in Super League. It wasn't the priority. So the priority of the club was to stay in Super League. The World Cup Championship was seen as a Brucey bonus for us. Like, we weren't going to win the Challenge Cup that year, and we weren't going to do anything else. So it was just priority to stay in Super League. So for us, to be fair to Stuart Raper, who was the coach at the time, Stuart took that as a bit of a bonding stroke, fitness stroke, get together type scenario. So we were over there. That was the purpose of what our trip was. We had fixed to fulfill. We did all right, actually, to be fair. We didn't get hammered in any of the games. We were incredibly competitive. So we played against Hunter Marys and my old club, believe it or not, Perth Red, Western Red. So we played those 2 games. But what he did do, to be fair, people always said to me, how come Barry John Mather, who's signing at Perth Reds, come back and sign for Casper Tigers? Yeah, because Stuart Raper sent me on a mission to make sure that I got persuaded Barry John Mather to leave Perth. It's 3-story penthouse apartment in the centre of Perth, which is something you see on a movie set. With at that particular time, with his glamorous girlfriend, which is not his wife, he's got a separate wife now, to move back to the UK to live in Castleford.
The beach must have been as good, eh?
Leon Price said, give me Blackpool Beach instead of Bondi. Is that what it is? the canals of Castleford to the actual beaches of Perth.
So it's really, mate, then when you're under the pump, it's them experiences, though, that pull you through, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It's like anything to be in them days. It's still incredibly professional, but we had fun at the same time. And the reason why we had fun, it's like anything. And I'll talk about the Welsh. The Welsh motto was always work hard, play hard. We worked really, really hard, and we were locked behind closed doors. But when it was time to have fun, we had fun. And it was we always found that right balance. And to be fair, Stuart Raper that year, Shane Flanagan was his assistant, who's now the coach of St George Illawarra, the Dragons in the NRL. And so we had fantastic coaches, we had some fantastic players, and it literally on that particular stage, we just wanted to. He just wanted to make sure that we were in Super League next year. That was his primary goal, and we achieved that at the end of the season with an absolute canter. Where in theory we should have got to the Premiership final, we just ran out of steam because the priority had been up. So then the opposite. So my second year cast was brilliant because obviously there was an influx of new players, PJ being one of them. The second year is always a little bit of what's then because obviously we were convincing we got to the playoffs again. And then that year, we in the Challenge Cup, we beat Leeds at Leeds. I think if everybody remembers, any Castle fans that are watching this, if you get to watch it, when Adrian Vowles does a Hail Mary bomb in the last dying seconds of the game, and Andrew Shit comes down and we all go berserk. I think we're jumping in the crowd and everything that particular. And then the Uta goes after that. It's one of those amazing things after the game. You couldn't sleep that night for 2 nights, couldn't sleep because you're just living off adrenaline. Even as we all get that now as well, still think about it. Still gets me excited about. Then we beat Bradford in the next round of the Challenge Cup, who were league champions the year before. And then we draw Sheffield at home, and we just thought we just had to turn up, and then we win in the semi-finals, then in the quarter-finals, and Sheffield beat us at home. It's the nearest they ever got to winning the Challenge Cup, and literally that year, when we all talked, boys, we talked about that year, we just said we threw it away. We should have got to the Challenge Cup finals, and we were good enough. We had the right side as well to do it as well. It's one of those life stories where you just think, what if? But it is what it is, to be honest.
I don't think you've got many of them, though, mate, have you? You can be really content so far, what we spoke about.
Absolutely. If you'd have asked that snotty 12-year-old kid when he was at high school that picks up the rugby ball and did what he did to it further, he fast forward 20 years and he looks back at what happened to it further, and he really can't complain.
And when did you flirt with Rugby Union? Because you went to Newport as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so my thing with Newport was sort of, I was coming toward 2 aspects to this why I ended up switching codes. I'd had a bit of a rumour anyway. Obviously, WRU I'd had a few inquiries while I was at Cat. I was coming towards my contract in at Castleford. So my first priority, being brutally honest, was to extend my contract to Cat. And my agent who at the time was doing it completely messed it up, and I got some real bad advice. To the stage where I'd agreed a contract, and then he got pulled by Castleford because the agents had messed it up. So it wasn't necessarily me scrubbing around to find something because I had other offers, but I thought so. At that particular time, it was 1998. I was 28 years of age. If I was going to make the jump to do it, it was then or never because I was at the right age to do it. And I thought, I'd never played rugby union before ever. The only time I'd ever played it, believe it or not, was I played it as a 15-stroke, 16-year-old kid. I'd played a couple of games in the vet team at West Park. Believe it or not, to refer to my dad played in the vet team at Park, so I played with my dad at that sort of a couple of games doing that. So no experience of rugby union whatsoever at all. I got a decent offer sort of to go to sort of the WRU were pointing me to come. So when I went down to see Graham Henry was the coach at the time, I said, "Where do you want to go? Where do you want to play for?" Obviously, I said Cardiff. So they put me at Newport. So Anthony Sullivan went to Cardiff, and I went to Newport, which was bottom of the league. And the boys were brilliant. Don't get me wrong. It's quite lucky because we're talking to that later. Because I went at that time. Then I met a guy called a young number 8 who went up to play for Wales. It's a guy called Alex Popper, who was 18 at the time. He was playing first team at Newport. And we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about how that's significant later on. And it literally is. So I sort of I didn't. I went training sessions. They played me a game in the European Club Championship against Salle Bucharest. That was my first game. They put me on the wing. I touched the ball three times, made two tackles, and then I probably had a blinder. I could honestly, I couldn't understand it. I didn't get it. I wasn't enjoying it. If I look back, I just wasn't enjoying it. Just didn't get any action. It's just if you're playing, I just can't. You're constantly involved in something. I got used to.
Yeah.
I remember playing in a Wales Cup competition at a place called Jan in Wales, which is up in the valley somewhere. It rained like biblical rain. The pitch didn't have any grass in it whatsoever. The changing room, the water was leaking from the dressing room. I've been used to playing in, obviously, a lot same. I looked around in this dressing room and there was like mold in one corner, the ceilings falling down, there was water coming through the ceiling. And I'm looking at this going, did this when I was like 10 years ago when I was an amateur. Like, what am I doing here? And then we played in the Watson. We got beat. It was a shock in the competition that we got knocked out of the Welsh Cup. And I looked at her and just went, this is not for me. And then, so I came, so we agreed sort of to part ways. And then I came back to Widnes, which is probably the worst decision I ever made. I came back as a second time and signed for Widnes and played under Colin Wakefield. Paul Hume was there. He still was the captain of the team as well. He was coming towards the end of his career. It was the worst. It was honestly 98 that he came back and played those shots because I had the pressure of I was expected to get them up, but I didn't mind that pressure because we were playing in the championship at the time. Colin Wakefield, he was a lovely bloke, but couldn't coach for tougher. He was a really, really nice guy, to be quite honest. I just couldn't do it. And it was the wrong career decision for me to come back. And in the meantime, because of obviously I had an offer then to go back to Rugby Union to go and sign for the biggest club in England, which is Leicester Tigers. And I just couldn't turn that down. I just couldn't turn that down. I went more in 2 months at Leicester than I did in my whole time playing Rugby Union. And I played at Leicester Tigers, and then I was there for one season, and then came back. I was put on loan to Manchester because there was communities backwards and forwards from Widnes to Leicester for training and so forth from that time. I went and played because it was all training's great and so forth. If you're not playing regular games, it was a nightmare. I was involved in the Leicester squad with 4 players. 28 of those were full internationals, including myself. Yeah. None of us, you just no guarantee you weren't going to play in the week. I went and played at Manchester. We were playing in the Championship or the League or the Premiership in Rugby Union, so it was still high level Rugby Union. And enjoyed my time there. And then went back, and while I was at Manchester, to be fair, I got a phone call from Clive Griffiths who said that for the World Cup in 2000 and towards that, and Clive said if you come back and play Super League, if you go box, and that's the reason why I came back and played for Wake. So I went to Wakefield to prove that I was still capable of playing at that level. Played 8 games. I played eight games for Wakefield. People said, why did I play more than 8 games? So 4 tries in 8 games, so still give me 1 and 2 scoring. Came back, proved myself. I would have stayed longer, but they've been in them days. The Wakefield had something called rubber checks. It just kept bouncing. So I wasn't the only one at that stage. I used to commute with Bobby Golden at the time, so me and Bobby would drive over to Widnes together. And that's the reason why. But I'd done my bit at Wakefield. I went back to Leicester. I'd been selected to the World Cup, and then I sat down with Dean Richards again. He's a lovely guy. He said, Dean went, I want you to go back and play in the Rugby World Cup. And I promise you, if you go and play well in the Rugby World Cup, I'll find you a new club. And he did. To be fair to him, this is just saying he did. So I actually after playing in the Rugby League World Cup in 2000, which was 6 weeks, which was incredible. We got to the World Cup semi-final, We should have beaten Australia, but we ran out of steam. There's a reason behind that, but I'm not going to tell you what that is. And sort of that 6 week period was fantastic. We spent 2 weeks in South Africa on the pre-World Cup tour, which was amazing. We promoted the game in South Africa. We ended up playing South Africa at the Blue Bulls' grounds. We played at Loftus, which was incredible. Players we had, squad we had was brilliant. And the reason why we ran out of steam was because of other things, but we also ran out of players. Like Paul Moriarty and John Devereux, we had to bring them out of retirement because the squad could just literally just ran out of players. Fantastic event to be in. There was nowhere that little Wales at that time. Everybody was going to beat us. Everybody was being ridiculed. We played what we got to the semi-final and should have beaten Australia. To be fair, there's no doubt about that. I mean, that game's famous for. I think Sky always put that game on as one of the golden oldies. To be fair, he's literally from Lee Bracey dropping goals from the halfway line and putting bombs up and catching bombs and scoring on the sticks again, jumping down and Lockie and people like that. To be fair, no, he was that famous. And then I got after that I went and signed for a club called Dax, which were playing in the top 14 in France. The top 14 in France at that particular time was very much very different because it was split into two pools of. It was top 16, but it was two pools of 8, and the top 4 from each went into the end of season playoffs. We finished 5th in our pool, but I played at Toulouse, Montferrand, Montferrand. Never forget that one. To be fair, a cold December night in Clermont. It's not a nice place, by the way, Clermont. Any French, sorry, I apologise if that's what. I was living in Dax, which was on the Atlantic coast. So 10 miles away from Biarritz, I could literally, within 10 minutes, I could be in Spain or Lockstone for my day off. I was sitting on the beach one day watching the world go by. That was my life at that time. Yeah. And it literally was, there was about 24,000 on the Clermont on a cold December night. And when you see it, when you play in France, what you see in the television, correct, when you've got the bands and the Lockstone and all that, those happen consistently all the time. Dax was a small town. There's 30,000 people in the town. There's always 10,000 people that would go and watch the rugby at weekends. Oh, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. My oldest boy, Scott, went to a French-speaking school. The whole thing was brilliant. It's just unfortunate that I got a knee injury, and that was the end of that. I smashed my knee in, and that was the end of that. So I then came back to the UK. I agreed to sign for a club called Rovigo in Italy, because I was going to go to Italy the year after, because I thought I was coming towards the end. I knew I was coming towards the end, but I wanted to earn as much money as I possibly can, don't get me wrong, but also I wanted to play overseas. That was the end. I wanted to experience all those different cultures, because I wanted to go in that particular time. I wanted to go into coaching. So when I stopped playing, I wanted to go into coaching. So playing in different countries and getting different ideas, that was the idea for me.
Like it though, yeah.
So it's the next, because the way they coach in France is different than the way they coach in England and so forth as well. It was just, I wanted to do that. So 10 days before I was due to go to Italy, the club cancelled the contract because they didn't have the finance to do it. So I ended up playing a club called De La Salle Palmerston in the Irish Premier Division, so the All Ireland Division, First Division. Where I lived in, which is a team based in Dublin. My wife and kids were still living in. Obviously, it was cheaper to get a flight from, in those days, in the early noughties, to get a flight from Liverpool to Dublin. So than me to travel to, I don't know, play for Leicester or somewhere like that, because I used to get flights for like £10 a flight, return flight, you know what I mean? Yeah. And them days, it was just ridiculous. So we booked them in advance. My wife would come over, spend time with me in Ireland. I would come home, depending during the week time as well. I was training Tuesday, Thursday, playing Saturday. So I could literally, at that particular hour, even though I had an apartment in Dublin, I was still just commuting backwards and forwards. It was just a lot easier. And that was that. And then I coached at Rugby Lions, and that was me done. I coached at Bracknell and played coach at Bracknell, and that's me done.
Right, and was you content with that, mate? Was that decision easy to make?
For me, I was quite lucky. The last couple of years of me actually playing, progression from the bubble of professional sports and what I call the real world, I should say, had already started. I got a job working for a sports website called Cookery Sports. I sort of there was a brand that started in 1999. I was the first area manager for the Midlands. I was coaching in play coach in London, so I could do that. I was part-time coach, part-time doing that job. So it started. So Mike, for me, the transition from the professional era into normal life had already started. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I was ready for it. I always knew at some stage that it was never going to. I always knew I was going to retire by 32 or stop playing rugby by 32. I stopped when I actually went a year too long, 33, playing wise. So that progression had already started for me. The pinnacle for me stopped in 2000 when I played in the World Cup and I went and played top 14 in France. That was the pinnacle. I'd reached the top. It wasn't going to get any better from that. And obviously the Lions tour in '96 is the absolute pinnacle. So for me, I'd done what I wanted to do, and then I just sort of the transition into normal life was set and complete. And then my son started. He picked up my oldest boy picked up a rugby ball, and then he started playing at the Widnes under Sarah. Lots of things. The young Sarah, he was the coach. He was his coach from the age of 6 until the age of 9, and then Sarah said she said to me she couldn't do it anymore, so I ended up coaching his team at the Widnes, and that was that.
Right, and how do you find that?
I really, really enjoyed it. It's like anything, you make it as fun as you possibly can. If you speak to some of the boys who you know at the Widnes, to be fair, coaching wise, I was quite an old school taskmaster as well. Because I think we have fun, but you've got to have discipline at the same time as well. And rugby is all about it's teaching what's right and wrong, no matter what it is. And I used to say to my kids, even at such a young age, to be fair, they said, I want to do X, Y, and Z. I want to be professional. I said, that's fine. Horrible world, boys, but if you want me, I'll get you there. If you put the effort in, I'll get you there. But those boys were literally, for me, my main goal was just teaching them discipline in their life, to be quite honest, life skills, to be quite honest. That was the main thing for me. And we had parents were brilliant. Didn't have any issues with any of the parents as well down at the Widnes as well. So, no, I loved it, but it was, and then I took it so far, and it was time to move on. And I stopped coaching my oldest boy Scott when he was. I said I'd take him to 16, and that's my bit done. And that was it. I was done.
Right, and what's been your life since, Jace? What have you been up to, mate?
So I was involved in the sportswear industry for over 10 years. Area manager for sales. I managed a couple of the brands as well. You're probably not going to like what I actually physically do now. A lot of people. So I'm actually in the finance industry, but what I actually do is I work for a company now that it works in enforcement. So in other words, people who don't pay council tax, business rates, or anything like that I manage. So I work with local authorities on collection of unpaid debts. That's what I do as a business now. I was involved in sportswear for a number of years. The one good part of what I do is people that are vulnerable, people that need help, people need assistance. One of the schemes that I have is make sure that people get that help. Don't get me wrong, there are other people. The other side of the coin is that there's two sides to this coin. People who genuinely need help.
Yeah.
People who are, and I apologise for the language I'm about to use. The other side of the coin, people who are scumbags and complete lots of wankers who rip people off. I go after them guys as well. Right. So that's basically what I do as a job.
Yeah. Right, mate, and your hoodie. So I can see head for change, isn't it, on your hoodie?
Yeah, this is one of the things I got involved in last year. This time last year, I was in the process of learning how to swim. So I got a phone call back in October 22, as it is now, to say from my mate Alex, who we were talking about previously before, Alex Popham, who's the ex-Welsh number 8, who unfortunately has been diagnosed with dementia. He's in his mid-40s. He's having experimental treatment to see that. It's pretty prevalent in the news at the moment, certainly about the 2 codes of rugby sport regarding head injuries. I know there's a lot of hoo-ha at the moment, certainly in the Rugby League, certainly in the Super League, about head tackles and the game's gone and so forth. But when you've seen what I've seen, with guys who are involved in the charity Head for Change, there's one guy who's 32, made his debut, played second row for Scotland against South Africa, got concussed twice in the game, doesn't remember any of the game. He's 32 years of age, he's got dementia. His brain could be dead within 10 years. Alex doesn't really want to talk about it. He's in his mid-40s now, but he's having the treatment, which is slowing the dementia side of it down. Cannot remember a single rugby game he played throughout his whole career. And there's 12 of us that did the swim, so it was a league versus union across the what's name. This time last year, I was learning how to swim. I couldn't swim. So in October last year, there was a documentary that was released, which is called Rugby Concussion: The Turning the Tide for Sky Sports. I advise people to watch that. Particularly, there's a bit where a guy talks about his mate who had dementia, who committed suicide, who had the dementia side of it because he got a bang in the dressing room one game and couldn't find his way out of the dressing room. It's a serious subject. It's a pretty much. This is not about the sport. It's about improving the sport and making it safer. It's about giving education to parents and to youngsters who are starting to make the sport safer and make sure that their children are okay. And it's about the guys that are currently who are now suffering from dementia to make sure they get the right treatment and right help, to make sure whatever lifespan they've got left, that they have it as best and comfortable as possible. I'm not going to talk about any court cases because it's pretty much they're ongoing in both codes of rugby. I've got no interest in that because I'm not going to prejudice any of those cases. All I want to make sure is that the sport is safer for both codes of rugby, that it's still enjoyable to participate no matter what level you play at. This is what Head for Change is banging the drum about. And they obviously the awareness of that. When you actually sit down with some of these guys who've got dementia and have the conversation with them, you understand why that change has got to come.
Yeah, we get it, mate, don't we? You don't get the handbook when you sign that power form as a kid, do you? You don't realise, do you? And
I mean, Kev Brown, who did the swim with us, Kev was our youngest member. I mean, most of the Rugby League boys that did him were 50 plus. That was myself, Mick Cassidy, Mickey Edwards, Dennis Betts, Cliff Eccles. We were the guys, so we were all 50 plus. Kev Brown, this research says that if you've had 3 concussions, that you're supposed to retire. Kev Brown had 38. Including one when he played in the World Cup semi-final against Tonga, and he tells us when he told me that story. To be fair, it was just 38 concussions. We couldn't believe when he actually said that. We couldn't believe it because, I mean, Kev shows no symptoms now, and fingers crossed, touching wood, like nothing happens in the future. But it literally is on that aspect. It's just we just don't know, and that's the scary part. I'm 53 now. I mean, I'm quite lucky because I'm showing no symptoms. And I say this, what's them at the moment, but who knows what might happen to me in the future as well, to be fair, because when you get past, mate, you're all right, you're lucky, to be quite honest, because you're in your 20s/30s, to be quite honest. Well, literally, you're all right, mate.
Well, mid-30s now, yeah, I have to check.
Mate, John, you're all right, mate, to be fair. You just, when you said people like, you've been bathing yourself in milk and all of you, you're like Cleopatra, right? It's a greatness, mate. But it literally is on. It's just you've just got to make sure that your generation doesn't suffer from what my generation has been through. The days of getting a bang on the head, shoving a smelling salts under your nose and saying crack on with it. No, you can't do that anymore. I know Dennis Betts, who did the swim with us, now sits on a committee looking at certainly in the Rugby League circles regarding that, how to make the game still as enjoyable but safer as well, much safer for the boys as well. You just can't take, even if it comes to, it's not necessarily during games, but it's the concussions during training as well. When I switched codes, I couldn't believe we used to just kick lumps out of each other, and I couldn't believe it. When I played Rugby League in the 90s, we never did any physical. The only physical contact we did was hitting bags. We never sort of did contact against each other. I couldn't believe the Rugby Union side of it. We used to play something that Leicester called murder ball, which was a 10x10 square. One side, throw a ball in the middle and kick lumps out of each other. I know because you probably played the same. I've done it with my kids' teams. To be fair, when they were there, I regret it so much now because literally it's like and head guards and shoulder pads and that make no difference. Head trauma is head trauma. It's literally now there's no need to have any form of physical contact in training. When you can do that and still play the sport safely at the weekend. That's my own philosophy anyway now when I look back. That was one of the biggest mistakes I made with my junior Widnes. So any of those boys are watching it, but particularly Mike Jones. I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to do it that much. It was just the time at the moment, mate. So I do apologise about that.
I think the top level is certainly getting better, and that's filtering in through, isn't it? The players are quite vocal on the social media now, mate, about limiting that and leaving it to a game day, but doing everything around it to make it safe and stuff. Yeah.
No,
Right,
exactly.
no, fair enough, mate. And head for change is all over the socials. All they have to do is type it in the search bar and it'll be there, won't it, mate?
Yeah, it's not for head for change. The other thing I suggest people do regarding the documentary. So Sky Sports did do an hour documentary. It is on the Sky Sports YouTube channel. So it's Rugby Concussion, Turning the Tide. It's quite an emotional roller coaster. I'm in it quite prominently. My wife and my youngest son's in it as well, to be fair, because he does motorsport. So that was a pretty much, because it's pretty prevalent to them as well, to be quite honest, head trauma, because he races at an elite level in motorsport. So it's just one of those things where you just need to, there's that side of it as well. Hence, it's certainly not at Lewis Hamilton level, because that is one expensive sport. God almighty, that is one expensive sport. But it literally is. Like I said, last year he raced in World Championships and so forth that in Europe last year, and it was just again, you still get head trauma in that because of the G-force and everything else that goes with it as well. So I'm doing that, just bringing that up, is not necessarily for him, but just sort of his awareness of the fact that he could be affected in all sports and all walks of life as well. To be fair, the last thing we need is dementia with young adults like yourself.
No, brilliant, mate, and we will share that on the week building up to your episode as well, mate.
No, mate, no worries.
Documentary, yeah. So I've got a few daft questions for you, mate.
Go
if
on,
that's
then.
all right. Now we're near the
This
end of the chat.
This is the best one. This is the best bit, the daft questions bit. Come on, John, this is the best bit.
Yeah. So any pre-match superstitions when you were playing?
Yeah, I always put my left sock on before my right sock, and my left boot before my right boot. If I didn't, and the other one, this is the really strange one. If I didn't get on the massage table first, second, or third before a match, I couldn't play.
Right.
Work that one out.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's just what it is, isn't it? Yeah. No, it's fair
the
enough.
other the other quirky thing as well, Slim, I wouldn't let anybody strap me. I had to strap myself.
Oh, all right.
Which, when you've got a physio there and specialist do, I just wouldn't let anybody do it. I had to do it myself.
Anything that makes yourself comfy and confident in what you're doing in it, it's mad. The little, we've said before, fine margins in it.
That makes no sense whatsoever at all. I played charity matches when I finished, and I still had to put my left boot on before my right boot. And I'd be, what the fuck you do? What are you doing? So it's just routine. Everything I did that just meant that I just couldn't play.
Well, that's nuts, isn't it? So the next word I'm going to say, mate, is different for everybody. The definition very varied. So the toughest player you played with and against.
Oh, toughest. Is we going physicality wise or just pure ability?
Well, exactly that. It's different, and it makes however you see the word toughest within the game.
Oh, the
See, I've
toughest
let
player.
you down a little bit because I didn't send you these, did I? So
no. The toughest player. I've got the answer to this for straight away. So the toughest, both physically, mentally, and ability wise, I'm going to say two. Okay. One is Kevin Iro.
Yeah.
The other one is Viaga Trigamarlin. So I remember the reason why I said Viaga Trigamarlin. I played against him when he was at Wigan against Salford, and I tackled him 33 times. And I was black and blue for 4 weeks. Because remember Inga the wingers, he was known as then. He was short, stocky. But it was like hitting a piece. It was like tackling a piece of cement. It was just like every time. It was that hard. It was like hitting a piece of cement. Unfortunately, Biaga's no longer with us. God rest his soul. But Kevin Arrow was known as the Beast. I mean, Kev was just a handful. He was just big, strong, physically had everything. To be fair, it was just an absolute. It was just a nightmare.
Your favourite away ground, mate, that you played at?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh,
Because you're probably not meant to have a favourite away ground, really, are you? You're meant to be uncomfy in that.
No, I'll tell you what it is. I want to say Norton Park. Because every time I scored a hat trick once when I came back, one of the first visits I came back to Norton Park, I scored a hat trick, so I'll say Norton Park.
Yeah.
I scored every
Running
time I
out the
came back.
cage.
Yeah, coming out the cage whenever he used to spit at us. And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
I'll have to tell you this story. The funniest thing, one of the funniest things I've ever said. We're playing this game. I was at Salford playing this game against Widnes one night on a Friday night. So it's on Sky, and obviously when you come out the cage, obviously in the old stadium, you used to get quite a lot of abuse. Not as bad as the one at Hull when you played at the Boulevard, when you come out covered in spit and all sorts of different stuff.
Stories about the Boulevard.
Yeah, the Boulevard's that. But this bloke's like he's really, really aggressive with coming out. So this is like second half, start the second half. I don't know if you can ever see the clip. So this bloke's he's got his face up to the cage. Like David Young's what's name's leading us out. And he's snarling what's name. David just goes like that was for two fingers. What's name pokes him in the eyes. We're walking past this bloke's rolling around on the floor, to be quite honest. That Young's just poked him in the eye. So you see he's come at the dressing room, just wetting ourselves. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
So if you could go back and tell a younger Jason anything, what would it be?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. Don't come back to Widnes. Second time it was the worst. It's the worst career mistake I ever made. I came back because Widnes was the team that I supported as a kid, and that decision was made more on sympathy by the heart rather than by the head. And the other thing I would tell Jason is sign your contract when you agreed the contract at Casford. Sign the contract at Casford. That's what the one thing that would. That's the only thing. I don't have that many regrets. But saying that, I say that, but I wouldn't have then gone into rugby, and I wouldn't have met the people that I've met. I probably wouldn't have had the career that I have away from it, to be fair, because all that came from on the back of contacts within, believe it or not, within Rugby Union and so forth and so forth. So,
Word of mouth was mega strong back then, though, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wasn't it? So your word was as good as a signature on it. You can't really do that now.
No, I absolutely now. I think without sounding too political, I think with our current government, to be fair, it's completely in the last 14 years, it's changed the ethos of our country to a lot worse. I'm a little bit old school in that respect, where your word is your bond. Unfortunately, I've been bitten quite a few times by doing that, to be quite honest, which is quite sad actually. But it's just the way the world is nowadays.
It's not down to you, though, is it? That's down to them, mate. It's not your fault that matters.
It's society, the way that society's evolved over the last 14 years. It's quite sad, actually.
Yeah, no, it is, mate. Right, so if you're out and you're with this reunion that we spoke about, and you've had a few beers, mate, the microphone ends up in your hand, Jace. What you gonna give us on the karaoke, mate?
Oh, that's a brilliant, brilliant question. I love that one. What would I sing? Back to life, soul to soul.
Yeah.
Back to life, back to reality. That's Martin. That was. If anybody is fans, remember Martin Affire's black BMW that used to drive around it during the 90s. To be fair, that used to be blazing out of that during the 90s as well. If there's any, speak to Dowdy about that one. To be fair, you watched them on a Martin back to the soul to soul. The songs booming out his big black BMW.
So is there a landmark, man? Was you?
I believe it or not. No, I used to sort of. I was and I wasn't. Top of the town. I remember to go into the opening at the top of the town. It was never a landmark thing, to be fair. So we used to go to. I used to socialise in St Helens because obviously I was from St Helens.
Yeah.
So I used to sort of a lot of mine sort of socialise. But it was only when Toppers opened, to be fair, with these when obviously when Kurt and Jim and Sammy opened that I did that quite a few times. But no, a lot of the time I would stay in St Helens, to be quite honest.
Okay, mate. Right, so that's the end of the daft questions. But if you're willing to, mate, and I appreciate I let you down a little bit because I didn't send you the questions and I thought I did. A 1 to 13 that you played with.
Oh God. Well, six is easy because that's Tony Myler.
Yeah. What was it about Tony, mate? Because everyone just
mate,
adore him, don't they?
Yeah, Tony had everything. He was physically strong. He was physically quick. He could step off both feet. His brain worked like no other rugby player I've ever seen in my life. He could just, he just could do everything. He literally could do everything. It was scary. Okay. Are we talking a rugby league or a rugby union team here?
Either or, mate. Rugby
Oh,
league if
God.
you can, because that's where you
No,
spent most of your career. But
Alan Tate at fullback, Mark Nafire on the
yeah,
right wing, on the left wing. Darren Wright, Andy Curry, Jonathan Davis on the wing. Halfbacks. No, I put Dave Union. Dave Union instead of Andy Gregg. I'm not an Andy Gregory fan.
and you at
See.
7.
Yeah, Dave
Yeah,
Union at 7. Front row, I'll go with Kurt. I'm going to throw a curveball in at 9, which is a kid called Jason Ramshaw, played hooker with me at Keighley. I'm going to put David Young in at 10. Oh, this is so hard because like people like Yeston Harris and people like that not even in the team. Kieran Cunningham as well. I can't even pick Kieran
I was
Cunningham.
gonna say, yeah, he played at Wales with you, didn't he?
Yeah, I haven't picked Kieran Cunningham. No, I'm going to put Kieran Cunningham at 9. Sorry, scrub that one. Kieran at 9.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with. We're going to go in the second rows. I'm going to go with Mark Geyer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw a couple of and in the second row, I'm going to put. Oh, it's just so hard. I'm going to put Marty Wood in there. He played with at Keighley because he was unbelievable. I'm not even pick Nick Pinkney or anybody like that. I can't believe that. Looking for somebody at 13. No, I'll put Marty Wood in at 13. I'm looking at somebody in the second row. Mark, to play with Mark Geyer to give me some balance. I'm going to put Mosi Koloto in there. What a back row that would be. 2 monsters and a ball playing these forwards.
Imagine you'd want to play and coach in that team, mate, wouldn't you?
I'd love to play, mate. I'd love to sit. Can I sit on the bench in that team?
Of course you can.
Well, that would be coaching that team would be for Lada.